I'd like to now welcome back on stage Olga Feldmeier, CEO of Smart Valor, and she will be speaking about the very timely topic from decentralization to democratization of access to wealth. And what that means, she'll tell us right now.
So hello guys, hello again to everybody who joined us later. I'm going to talk about, share with you some thoughts about the journey from decentralized money to democratization of access to wealth. And let me start with this. I'm very grateful to be here today with you. I'm very grateful to live in such an exciting time. And in fact, I think everyone, you guys, all of us, we are very fortunate people. We are fortunate because our short lifespan magically coincides with a great historical and social shift enabled by technology. We have a chance to live through two great inventions. First, the internet, and now the blockchain. The internet brought us freedom of speech. It let us challenge oppressive governments. It gave education to millions. Whereas the information was the privilege of a few, internet gave it to all. And the same is going to happen with blockchain and with value. The same way the internet gave a global access to information, the same way blockchain is going to give global access to value. Because blockchain is the internet of value. This is the future. This is where we are going. But whereas today information is spread globally, the value is not. The value is local, in the hands of few, and not widely accessible. There are all sorts of walls and hurdles why the value is very local and not spread, such as, inaccessibility of banking, capital controls, and local regulation. So, for example, if you are in China, you're allowed to invest only in your country, in your Chinese companies, right? Not abroad. If you are in India, your wealth is very local. It's possibly everything that you have on you or physical gold that you have in your house. If you are, for example, in US, the country of free, your bank will tell you that you're not allowed to invest in cryptocurrencies. Look beyond the obvious, and you see that there is a massive wealth redistribution going through all different channels. Think about Wall Street as such, the largest wealth redistribution machine ever invented. US government spent $30 trillion US dollars on bailouts during the financial crisis. And we all know who footed the final bill. So in this world where, value is not evenly distributed and not accessible in the hands of few and benefits insiders, we have a problem. We have a lot of problems to solve, right? And actually, this local nature of value stands in a conflict to the basic need of people all around the world, which is safety. Safety of your savings and wealth. And there is no safety in a country where the freedom of speech is a distant fantasy. And there is no freedom and safety in a country that any time can be involved in armed conflict or where inflation can wipe away everything you have within several months. And there is even no safety in your saving bank account. One of the most stable currencies of this world, reserve currency, right? Because this reserve currency lost 96% of value within the last 100 years. So, in this situation where the value is so local and inaccessible, how this technology can provide a solution or help? And there are basically, the answer is threefold. It's through disintermediation, global access through cryptocurrencies, and more accessible investments achieved through tokenization. So disintermediation, that's easy, right? That is going to be the major trend that is going to reshape a financial services landscape as we know it today. Because this thing is really new, right? Like Vinny mentioned before, like we as a human being, we never had a way to agree and build consensus about something without putting a central party intermediary or arbiter between us, right? But now we have. Now we can all agree that we trust in this data. So this disintermediation, that is going to fundamentally reshape institutional landscape in financial services. The second one, global access through cryptocurrencies, that's a big one. And this is, I'm very excited about it. It's actually what is happening today, right? Today, it doesn't matter where you are. You can anywhere buy Bitcoin or Ether, and from there, you can go and invest in exciting startups alongside Silicon Valley celebrity investors. All of a sudden, you're like them, and everybody has access. This is a democratization of access to wealth. And actually, it doesn't stop there. It's not just about startups or tokenization of participation in the company, right? It's actually much more. So, but maybe one step back, what is tokenization? Tokenization is basically, in a pure sense, it's representation of any kind of asset. Can be physical asset, can be intellectual property, any kind of assets through a cryptographic object, through identification key that is issued on the blockchain and that represents ownership rights. And these ownership rights can be exchanged, recorded, and exchanged on the blockchain. This is tokenization. So this can be applied to any kind of assets, right? For example, going beyond startups and protocols, you can think about application of tokenization as a better way to securitize things in alternative investment space, venture capital, private equity, to create more liquidity in this asset class. Or you can think about a great, colorful investments, like think about you could invest in supporting your favorite contemporary artist or a musician, songwriter, or even participate in the funding and build-up of off-grid power facility somewhere in Kenya to give kids in school light. We can do this. Token can represent anything, and we can fund it on a global scale. This is just several examples of the tokenized investments that we're going to list on our platform very soon. And what excites me most is actually that there is a completely new asset class on the rise, right? Those resources of the future economy. I call them assets of the future. Those are those tokens that represent natively digital assets, such as decentralized computing power, or, for example, protocols that will enable large-scale machine-to-machine communications, right? This asset class is a big one, and it's on the rise, and it's the very beginning. Now, the question is, okay, so why is actually tokenization so great? What's so special about it? And basically what is really different here is that the way we own things and exchange ownership today is actually a very inefficient, archaic process. Think about how long it takes to purchase a real estate. This process goes over the weeks, right? And this is true with a lot of other different physical assets that are difficult to move or exchange. But think about even progressive form of ownership. For example, a digital representation of a participation in a company, like a share in a publicly traded company. If you and I, two of us, we want to exchange a share in a Tesla company, it's going to take the whole army of intermediaries 3 days and cost us a lot of money. And actually, we don't need this anymore. Because on the blockchain, the things are simple. It's just from me to you. And this is what will fundamentally change how financial markets work today. And actually, beyond that, just that, right? Having instant transactions at the fraction of the cost, this is going to drive a lot of liquidity and accessibility of investments, right? But beyond that, with having all this stuff on the blockchain and being able to transact in cryptocurrencies, we can create a completely new and much more efficient market mechanism. So to give you an example, on our platform, we are building a set of smart contract-based auctions that will enable trade and exchange of ownership in less liquid asset classes, like, for example, tokenized venture capital participation share. And there is great work being done currently on this auction site and price discovery. So with that, I would like to ask you, like seeing, this huge new world of cryptocurrencies and tokenized assets coming up, isn't that a great opportunity to reshape financial services to make it more disintermediated, more direct, more accessible? And the answer is probably yes. And the answer is yes also because this market is just getting started. If you look at numbers, how big is crypto asset markets? Who of you know? It's been like 20, 30 billion a year ago, right? Very, very small, tiny. And it expanded by 10 within a year. Well, we went from 20 billion to 800 billion, and then we came back now to 300 billion, right? But the space is really growing fast. And what is even more interesting is that the composition of the crypto crypto market capitalization is also changing. We used to have times a while ago, probably like 6, 7 years ago, when Bitcoin was a little bit challenged by altcoins, but then they disappeared again or lost the share. And now this is different, right? Now, if you even look just a year ago, Bitcoin was 2/3, right? And now it's the opposite. 2/3 as all the other coins and protocols, right? And what is even more interesting is that apart from those big famous protocols like Ethereum and Litecoin and Ripple, around 20% is now in all of this, new asset class ICOs token and coins, right? So that's good development, right? We are moving into the right direction. And moving forward, even bigger part of this overall crypto assets are going to be asset-backed tokens. And I think we have a very good chance to grow with the overall market capitalization to 10-20 trillion within the next several years. So how does this compare in traditional capital markets? Of course, it's not that big, right? Even if you compare with alternative investment marketplace, we have in alternative investments, what do we have? 7 trillion total assets. Venture capital is raising somewhere between 50-60 billion per year. In comparison to ICO, well, ICO last year, 6 billion. It's kind of still much bigger, but imagine it went from 0 to being 10% of overall venture capital funding, right? So this is big. And of course, also in comparison to overall fundraising in other industries, this is now relatively small, like private equity and other assets. But actually, this doesn't matter because the real big gap is between this crypto economy and the real economy. Here, we are not talking about billions. You're talking about trillions, right? In publicly traded equities, 65 trillions market cap. Commodities, 100, real estate, 270. Imagine even if just even a small, tiny fractions of those real assets will go on the blockchain. Imagine what that would mean for this market and for the overall market capitalization. And of course, this is a huge opportunity. And it's an opportunity in the first line for all the business models that are going to be around exchanges, marketplaces, and enabling access. And we are basically today in a very early phase, right? We're just building a basic infrastructure. So to sum up, I would like to tell you that, on this journey from decentralized money, Bitcoin, and so on, to the decentralized access to wealth, we are building this marketplace for tokenized investments that is going to enable access, universal access to value in the way it was never possible before. It is going to enable better liquidity and more accessibility of investments products through tokenization. And most importantly, the biggest challenge on the way to build up this new businesses and infrastructure is going to be, of course, regulation. Regulation, because today we are still kind of in the same situation as we were with Bitcoin 5 years ago. Nobody wants to work with us. There's unclear legal situation. Like even today, Swiss banks, they don't work with ICO companies, right? You have no chance to open a bank account here. And this is what we want to change. And there is even an opportunity to change it. Here in Switzerland, in Liechtenstein, regulators are working on creating a new framework, right? And this is, I think, our biggest competitive advantage, being here, being able to have a conversation with a regulator, with society, which is going to enable this change and help us to build this infrastructure of the future. And I'm actually here also to make even bigger and bolder statement. I would like to say that decentralized marketplaces are the future of banking. Because the same way today, the largest taxi company has no cars, and the largest hotel chain has no property, the same way the largest financial institution of the future is going to have no assets. It's going to be just a marketplace. If you share our vision about global access to value and democratization of finance, please join our community. Join our Telegram channel. talk to us. Tell us how you can contribute to what we are doing, what we should tokenize, at which opportunities we should look, and help us to build this platform. We're soon going to open for the next round of funding, and don't miss this opportunity to become part of the success story. I thank you very much for your attention, and see you soon. Thank you.